Hey everybody, I'm Dave Wingerter. I'm the VP of HO Skis. I got my good friend Wade Cox with me. He's going to give you the history of the animal boot, and I'm going to let you know about the fully redesigned boot for this new year. All right, we got a full generation of animal boots here, Wade. Maybe you can walk us through the early days and let us know how you guys developed them.
Predating the animal, we had a 98, and then before that was a 96. So they asked me what I was looking for in my boot, and I said, well, I really want more support so it can have better edge control.
Sure.
No more, no less.
Yeah.
So this is the original. This is the rear boot. It was kind of cool because then we introduced the
pivot plate.
The pivot plate, absolutely. So now right or left foot forward, we were good there. Really, we just got more support through the bottom of the boot, through the heel, and we weren't necessarily so worried about the height at that point. We were more about just if we could have the proper edge control over the ski, then we were good. And obviously this one didn't have the strings. This is sort of the next generation.
Right.
We've modified the front Velcro system to give the skier options on how tight they wanted to get it, which was good or bad as the Velcro might wear out. Yeah.
Totally.
And the same with sort of the rear entry. You know, at this point we were dealing with the strings, and that became a bit of a nightmare in the end. As you've probably been there before on the dock, and you pull your string, and it's broken. So, those are things that obviously moving on to the next generation that we were able to eliminate, but still keep the original sort of base of the boot.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've done. To Wade's point, I mean, the plate system, whether it's the front boot or the pivot, the hardware, which, the boot mounts to the plate, the footbed, what I call the cassette-style footbed, left and right specific in the front, neutral in the back, that's the same as it was in the old days, because that's really the fundamental aspect of this boot. What we have modernized in a way is we've gone back to some of the materials we used to use. So we've got 100% natural rubber toe and heel, and we've got 100% natural rubber overlay. I should point out the front overlay is quite thick as overlays go, where the rear boot has a thinner rubber overlay. And that's just, you want to have more control with your front foot than your rear, and that's the way we build that into the boot. We did change the pattern a little on the top, so the older animal had a quite wide toe and heel piece. As a result, the overlay was quite wide. So a skier like myself, I always had a little too much room up top, but the bottom fit well, and now it's more snug. So when you do move your leg to the side or do put the ski on edge, you get more instant feedback without being overly boxy, without being too stiff of a fit. And we didn't use laces on this one. And the reason we didn't is because these rubber overlays, this natural rubber, is so much elasticity to it that when you can pull on this and it opens, lets your foot get in, and then kind of suctions back and gives you that nice, like we say, omnidirectional flex. So not only does it move fore and aft, or just move left and right, it can move in all degrees. And I think that's something that's a really cool feature of this boot that all the team skiers really like. So last thing, very important, we don't have the fabric straps like we used to. We have the kind of old school finger holes, but what we've done is between this thick rubber heel or toe and the sponge rubber on the inside, we've added an additional layer of a harder PVC plastic that reinforces these finger holes. So when you're yanking on these things, trying to get your foot in there, it's a lot stronger for finger pullouts. So it looks old school, but we kind of thought all the little details that go into this boot. And all blacked out, HO hole pattern, super comfortable, stiff reinforcement with the plastic and the heel cup, to Wade's point. We learned all that working with Wade in the years past. It's got to be stiff in the lower, so you have that really good control, but a little bit more forgiving in the cuff so that you can kind of finesse your turns and feel your way through the course, especially modern day skiers that you see them feeling their way through. So, totally redesigned animal boot. I'm stoked. Team skiers love it. You might have to come back and ski
that
to
one
get on these.
It's certainly a lot more comfortable than the original, and you can see that you talked about the narrowness. So now we're getting less drag.
Yeah, that's a big
right?
thing.
When the skiers leaned over the turn now, the boot is more streamlined. Obviously, the durability we talked about. No laces, no strap, reinforced. All that stuff is like
and rebuildable. which is a nice thing. You know, a lot of the modern boots these days, I mean, not to knock them, but if something goes wrong, they're kind of done. And this is still that animal platform. You can switch out the plates, you can redo the hardware, you can redo the overlay, you've got replacement toes and heels. So kind of that environmentally conscious, more responsible product, you got a rebuildable product, which, you know, as high-end skiers, that's important to us.
When I was skiing, we didn't have hard shells.
Right.
They weren't even invented, so to speak. So we were looking for something that was going to act like a hard shell on the front, but then you talked about the thinner
Overlay
wrap on the back.
yeah.
Exactly, because we wanted our back foot to have a lot more flexibility and freedom to move about.
Yep. I think that's a big thing. That thinner overlay allows you to do that. And to your point of hard shells, now we do have a hard shell. So this doesn't have to be that 110% stiffness. We can kind of bring it back to a little bit more reasonable level of comfort. And I think that's what you notice. It's a rubber boot, and I know people think, oh, my foot's going to cramp. Wait till you put it on. It's a nice medium volume fit. You're not going to have the cramping. We kind of work through those details. You have enough control on the lower to really ski well, but it's not like overly aggressive. And if you are that skier who needs that, we have a hard shell for you. I know a lot of people ask me, they said, hey, where are the laces? I use the laces. Well, you know, when the boot was made with an EVA toe and the EVA heel, that's like a stiff foam, and you didn't have laces, it was a little difficult to get on. And that's exactly why Wade and the guys did that. They said, hey, the animal boot ski is great. Can the pro shop dealers are like, can you get it easier to put on? And now that we've gone back to this 100% natural rubber toe and heel, I mean, the elasticity on this thing's amazing. You can tug on it and pull on it. It has that stretch, so you can get the boot and get your foot in there quite easily, and then it kind of like suctions back on your foot and gives you that nice 100% contact feel that like only you really get from a rubber boot. I think anyone who's skiing a rubber boot knows what I mean. It doesn't fit boxy. You've got full contact. You've got comfort, but that elasticity to that rubber, that natural rubber, allows it to expand to get your foot in and out. So I think it's, you know, that's kind of the magic combination on this boot. Why is the animal the best of all time? I mean, probably a lot has to do with him. I mean, he won a lot of tournaments on it, and my whole generation was influenced by that. We said, well, we want to ski like Wade. These are his boots. We're going to use them. But I don't know. I think Wade can answer that better because, I mean,
well, for me, I mean, I was at that point near the end of my career where, you know, maybe 20-25% of the field had converted to hard shells, and I was like, well, I think it could be a 2 or 3 year learning process.
Sure.
And I always liked the comfort of the rubber boots. We talked about Big Carl Roberts would just throw his ski over the back of the boat and dive in and put his boots on, and I still wanted some of that sort of freedom, but I still wanted support in the front, performance in the front. And no, we're getting in with this with a decent amount more comfort than we ever survived under those old ones.
Yeah, I think the unique thing about a rubber boot and the animal in particular is it's not a hinged cuff like the modern hard shells. You know, modern hard shells riveted on the sides and has a hinge point, so it moves forward and it moves backward really well. It literally does not move left and right. That gives you that stiffness, which, you know, some people like, and it doesn't move at these angles. Let's say like the 9 o'clock angle or the 3 o'clock angle or the 5 or whatever. But when you have a rubber boot and you're using this 100% natural rubber, it has that elasticity to it. Essentially, it's like an omnidirectional cuff. It bends backwards very easily. It bends forward easily, left, right. But that 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever you're moving. And Wade knows, like modern skiing, these guys are absolute masters of like moving their center mass at these different angles. And this allows him to do that. It's not restricting you or making you too rigid like a robot out there in the slalom course. So I think that's one of the big things I felt. And Wade, you can probably speak more to that, being a high-level coach like yourself.
Well, I think that there's one drawback from, there's maybe multiple drawbacks from using a hard shell. But you mentioned the side-to-side stability. I asked a guy that was one of my training partners back in the day, he had tried it. He says, you won't like the hard shell. And I said, why? He goes, imagine if you went out on your surfboard and you put boots. Now you're going to lose the feel coming through your feet and that side-to-side movement that we talked about. So I sort of watched, and I brought this up not too long ago, that maybe some people are riding a hard shell that shouldn't because they're not getting any flex to the side. So the actual stiffness that for maybe Will Asher, who's structurally perfect and he's strong as an ox and he's able to keep his feet underneath him, but maybe there's putting pressure downward on the ski that the ski's not ready for. And so that's where I'm like, well, there's a little bit of this old school flavor that
maybe forgiveness.
The forgiveness of it is absolute. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And to count and to speak to that as well, I have a good friend who is an extremely high level ski racer. And, you know, World Cup ski racing, all about stiffer. Well, they're actually making room in their boots and they're giving the space for the foot to move and they're trying to build in forgiveness. And he said one other thing. He said, you know, if the best skier in the world was using a certain model of boot, the rest of the guys would be trying that boot. And I think in the situation now, like one of the guys out there is using a rubber boot and skiing pretty well. If you're a high-level skier, you're interested. You know, like we went on this path to hard shell, but perhaps, you know, there's some things that could be improved. And I think this might be that combination a lot of people are looking for. So I definitely say even if you're a hard shell user, you should try it and see what you can learn about your skiing or what feeling you might have been missing. Maybe you end up on it, maybe you don't, but it's not going to do any harm. I mean, you're going to learn about your skiing. So, for sure. Yeah, so that's the evolution of the animal boot. It was really cool talking with Wade, giving us kind of the history lesson on where it began with the 98, and then walking you guys through the different iterations through the years. And like I said, I hope everyone really enjoys the new one. I mean, I love skiing in it. It was fun developing it with the team. And I think it really is like the best combination of everything we've learned over the last 25 years.
Yeah, about almost 25 years. Yeah,
Crazy.
So that's kind of crazy. We still have sort of the exact same platform of binding. It's been sort of, it was that futuristic,
ahead of its time.
Ahead of its time. Like we mentioned, we didn't even have hard shells then. And it's been so good that, we've stuck with it. It's great.
If it broke, don't fix it, right?
Just make it better. Yeah.